Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast of Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who intentionally watched Tyler Huntley versus Jacoby Brissett. Kyle, how are you doing?
Not too good after that game. I definitely needed a cleanse. Got a haircut. I had to dye my hair back, so the blonde hair is no more. There it is.
Okay.
So we're back.
I guess this is the Patriots. The Patriots high was when you dyed your hair. Now that it's gone all the way to here, you have to go the other way.
Yeah. To be fair, though, when I got a haircut, it looked really bad. So, because all the brown had started to seep back in. So it was either I had to keep dyeing it or get rid of it. But the Patriots didn't help the cause.
No, they did not. Kyle, this was I think a really good week, a really strong Sunday. I would even say a great Sunday, albeit with kind of an all-time dud on Sunday Night Football, both with the delay and then it just being kind of a defensive slogfest. But overall, a very good week.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of competitive games. We had a Game of the Year candidate. We had a couple other great games. There was a lot of good stuff going on this week.
I'm not sure if I'd say Raiders Broncos was Game of the Year, but yeah, a lot of good stuff indeed. Let's start off with how the day started off, because again, I should set up. If you're watching this after the fact, or if you're listening to this, the way we're doing this is currently the fourth quarter of the Cowboys Steelers game has just started. We are going to touch on that game once the game ends. It will end while we're doing this show, so we're going to touch on that once that game ends. We're kind of both watching this as we're doing the show. If something big happens, we might react to it live. But that's how we're going to be structuring this show. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Let's go to, I think, the biggest story of the day, the Jets versus the Vikings, with, neither quarterback looked great in this. Aaron Rodgers with a brutal stat line in the Blaine Gabbert zone and also 3 interceptions on the day. And I actually don't even think he played that poorly in this one, although definitely some mistakes throughout. You had the Vikings who couldn't get much of anything going in the in the second half. Really, after the first quarter, they very much struggled. We're able to get just enough though to win this one. Kyle, what was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this was a defensive game. Field position was big. I think the Minnesota obviously scored on the pick 6, and then I think their other touchdown was on short field, if I'm not mistaken. So, they got a lot of good things from that stuff, and then I just think a lot of it came down to the Jets made too many mistakes in the first half. I actually thought they got going a little bit in the second half and did some good things and started to move the ball. And, that's probably that second half is probably the most consistent we've seen the team move the ball on this Minnesota defense this season that has played exceptionally well. But they spotted them a 17-0 lead, and that just can't happen. I think both of these defenses prove that they're Super Bowl caliber. I think both of these offenses prove that they got a little bit of ways to go. Maybe the travel played a part in that. Maybe there's some other factors. But I also think consistently we haven't seen this Jets offense play up to performance so far this season. And this Minnesota team, look, man, it's not a bad strategy to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson a lot. In fact, it's a very good strategy. But, you need a couple of these playmakers to come up with some big plays, I feel like, at the end of these games.
Yeah. Let's start with the Jets, and then we'll get to the Vikings. Obviously Aaron Rodgers is going to be the story. I mean, how can he not be, right? It's one of the bigger stories we've had in sports history, him going to the Jets. Throws 3 interceptions. I got to be honest, though, and again, we can blame Aaron Rodgers if we want to, but, there's the play where Kevin O'Connell said that Andrew Van Ginkel ran that same play in practice and got a pick 6 on it because they kind of knew how the Jets approach facing a cover 0, and they knew where he was going to look with the ball, and they knew kind of how to play this. I mean, this game is just as much, I think, a Nathaniel Hackett failure as anything else. There was the play where he ran it on 3rd and 2, didn't gain any yards, ran it on 4th and 2, didn't gain any yards. There was the, I think towards the end, it was kind of an Aaron Rodgers play, but the Stephon Gilmore pick, Gilmore just knows Aaron Rodgers is going to go for a back shoulder and is prepared for that. The Jets are just too predictable on offense. Forget about, yes, they don't have a lot of stars. Yes, they have issues, but they also are just so predictable.
Yeah, they really are. And, part of it, I think, is on Rodgers. Part of it is probably on the offensive scheme. I mean, I think there's several ways you can cut the blame pie for that. Like you said, Gilmore has been in the league for such a long time. He's probably faced Rodgers several times. He knows what throw he's looking for there. The coverage scheme, they seem to have it lined up perfectly on some of those big plays. So yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to Aaron Rodgers has to be able to adjust just as much as like the rest of the team has to adjust to Aaron Rodgers, right? Teams are now knowing what Aaron Rodgers wants to run. They've known what Aaron Rodgers wants to run, and he has to be willing to adjust some of his play too. I think it goes both ways. I don't think it's all just Nathaniel Hackett. I don't think it's all just Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's all just the receivers, because I feel like a lot of the time we're hearing like miscommunication is now on the receivers. I don't think it's all
Right.
one individual side. It's all of it has to come together and work. Like there's still the makings of a good offense here. We just haven't seen enough of it.
Yeah, and it's like, and Alan Lazard is having miscommunication with Rodgers. Like you can't say they're new. Like they've been playing together for years. So yeah, there's just these issues here. I think that another thing that has to be frustrating if you're a Jets fan is this Jets defense was fantastic. The defense is as advertised. It was as good as we've seen a defense play in this game. But the offense, like I said, made too many mistakes and wasn't able to get it done at the end. If you have more to say about the Jets, we can get into it. I want to talk Sam Darnold. Because this is kind of the game we were waiting for. Is Darnold going to fall off a cliff? Aaron Jones did get injured in this game, but at the same time, like if that causes that much of a gap, like that's kind of a bigger issue than anything. Seeing him go down, I thought Darnold, quite frankly, missed throws in this game. It just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
The interception was a brutal interception. It's 3rd and 15. You're in your own end zone. The defense is playing great. He gave them a short field that gave the Jets 7 points. I mean, that was like. That got the Jets back in the game. He made some good plays in the first half, did enough to get it done, but like that was not a great Sam Darnold performance.
Yeah, he struggled too. He wasn't good. I would agree with that. I had this whole thing kind of ready because I thought the Jets were going to end up coming back and winning this thing. And I was like, the thing that separates like the good teams from like the heart of the champion, as we've seen Kansas City pull these games out over and over again this season, is like you have to be able to finish these things off. It comes down to 2 or 3 plays, it feels like, at the end of games, and it felt like Darnold just missed them. However, the defense stepped up and did its part. So you can't criticize it too much because the quarterback wins is all that matters, right? That's all that matters. So but yeah, I think he struggled. And I think, Justin Jefferson still got his numbers, but I think the Jets secondary very much held up in that matchup. And as you said, when Aaron Jones went down, it just felt like Minnesota did not have a second option. Maybe that gets better with the healthy Jones. Maybe that gets better with TJ Hawkinson coming back, but it just felt like Darnold, especially, and the Minnesota offense did not have anything else to go to.
Yeah, or maybe it gets better when you don't play the Jets defense. Maybe that's part something that could help as well. Last thought about the Jets before we can move on. Taking a while on this game, but it's a big game to talk about. I've made the comparison a bit to like the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of you have this, that's a great example of a team that started kind of slow, had its lumps, but then was able to eventually, get over the hump and win a Super Bowl. With this Jets team, they are way behind pace there. I mean, that Buccaneers team, okay, they had a bad loss to the Bears on Thursday Night Football where they lost by a point. They had and they got beat pretty handedly by the Saints in Week 1, but they also had 2 blowout wins and a still pretty impressive win against the Chargers. The Jets right now, they're 5 games getting crushed by the 49ers, losing, I would say, handedly to the Vikings, even if they almost came back and won, losing, barely beating the Titans, losing to the Broncos, who people don't consider a playoff team, and then the one kind of clear game is the one that you want to forget, the one against the Patriots. That was a good win for them. But as a whole, this is shaping up as a mediocre team through 5 weeks. They need to figure something else out. I think it can be done, but quite frankly, I think they need Davante Adams.
Very much so. They need another receiver. It seems like the Mike Williams thing is not working out right now. Which, I think part of it is probably coming back from that big of an injury. He's come back from a lot of injuries, but like sooner or later it's got to add up. He's not the youngest guy. I also just think, like, especially on that last play, like when I think of Mike Williams, I just think of him going up and just beating everybody to the high point and just winning every jump ball. And like, that's just not something Aaron Rodgers wants to do.
Yeah,
he's not a contested catch guy. And so does he even make sense with this team, really, if you will? So maybe that's where you go with Davante Adams. Maybe that's something you do. This team's already pushed so much into this pile. You might as well just go all in on the trade. But Obviously, it comes down to where Adams wants to go and where the Raiders want to send him. So it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. I think that's a big thing that needs to be addressed. And then, everyone was ready to call Breece Hall the best running back in football too. And I mean, has he hit double digits the last 2 weeks? Like it hasn't been great in the backfield either.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost a little funny how Aaron Rodgers joined the Jets. And I think the funniest possible outcome is that the Jets are so bad around him, it makes him look bad. I did not expect that to be a thing. Hey, he had reason to be annoyed with the Packers and how to handle certain things. I think it's fair to say maybe the grass wasn't exactly greener in Jets green, at least so far through 5 weeks. Listen, a lot can change. Yeah, I mean, they had mentioned apparently the proposed trade was Mike Williams and a couple thirds for Devontae Adams, and Jets fans were saying, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm rushing that card to the podium if that's the offer.
Yeah, I think you have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that's what it takes to get Devontae, I'm definitely taking that one to the bank, and it's going to be a fascinating thing to see how this plays out. But yeah, for sure, I don't know what's going to happen with Devontae Adams, but he helps the Jets a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. Kyle, you mentioned one of these games was a potential game of the year candidate. I'm assuming you meant Ravens, Bengals, an overtime game, one of two overtime games this week, the Thursday night game and this one, a high scoring overtime one. Both offenses were rolling. Both offenses turned it over late. There was kind of a wild sequence in overtime where Lamar Jackson fumbles the football, but then the Bengals, who are in field goal range now, they fumble the snap. McPherson did his best on a fumbled snap, but wasn't quite good enough to make the field goal. And then a long Derrick Henry run, Tucker makes the game-winning field goal in a game where a lot of offense was played, some defense was played here as well. Both teams made some plays down the stretch, especially the Ravens defense making some key plays down the stretch, with a Marlon Humphrey interception being kind of the key one. But the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate Lamar Jackson, improved to 3-2, 3 straight wins after that slow start. Kyle, what were your thoughts on this one?
Fascinating game. It was electric. I enjoyed every second of this game. I was right on this on the Wednesday pod. I did think it was going to be a higher scoring game based on how these defenses played. However, I thought the Bengals run defense actually held up better than I expected in this game. I thought they did all right. Obviously, I think the numbers were a little more skewed because Henry hit the 51-yard run in overtime. That obviously made it look a lot worse, but I thought they, for the most part throughout the game, held up. This was mostly Lamar through the air, hitting some big plays. Charlie Kohler, that's a guy now you have to know. He came up with some big catches in this game.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I've said before on this podcast, I hate that it feels like it's coming down to just like the quarterbacks in every NFL game now. But this was just amazing quarterback play. Both of them had 2 late turnovers that felt like it cost their team the games at one point. And yet their teams managed to stifle it. But still, I thought this was high-level quarterback play. I thought both of these guys were excellent. And then the Ravens found a way to win it at the end because of a botched snap, and they took advantage and got that big play.
Yeah, the Bengals find ways to lose games. I mean, what a heartbreaker, falling to 1-4. Burrow has 392 yards, over 10 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, and a 1 pick. Jamar Chase, 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins had 83 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's like a complete afterthought in this game.
Yeah, no. The Bengals offense was fantastic in this game, and it starts with those two, and then like you said, T. Higgins coming up big, and it's just gone up to another level. It felt like since T. Higgins came back in the lineup, been good this season. Yeah. Obviously, a little bit of a slow start, but I think it's fair to say Joe Burrow's been the best quarterback in football this season, which is crazy for someone who's now 1-4. But I think I think he's been fantastic. And he was fantastic again in this game. I mean, I have no notes on Joe Burrow, obviously. You don't want that late turnover, but it was everything you wanted from the Bengals offense, and it still wasn't enough.
I think there's a guy wearing a Balls uniform who might disagree with you, Kyle, but I agree. He's been at least up there. My take of the Bengals missing the playoffs and Joe Burrow winning MVP, getting stronger every week.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this isn't the MLB, and we
Yeah.
won't give an MVP to a team that's not in the playoffs. However, this is already looking like a pretty strong case.
Mhm.
He's near the top of the league. It feels like in almost every category. The last 3 weeks have been absolutely amazing. And I guess let's talk about these two teams in general, because obviously this game was electric. Everybody saw the game. We all know what
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah.
But talking about these two teams going forward, number one, Cincinnati's now 1-4. I think that's the biggest storyline. Cincinnati's 1-4, and I mean, the Ravens are the Ravens. This Ravens offense is special. I mean, it's really good. We've talked about it now for a couple weeks. This Ravens offense is something, but this Bengals defense just looks shot each week. And I don't really know what the fix is. I don't think it's a fix that you can fix on the trade market either. And so, I mean, do you think this team can right the ship this season? Do you think there's still a shot?
I do. I mean, at least to make the playoffs, I think it's possible. I think here's the best thing that the Bengals have going for them right now is next week they play the Giants on Monday Night Football. The surprisingly competent New York Football Giants, right? They've been been all right to start the year, but still, that's a winnable game. They play the Browns, the Eagles, who have kind of had their ups and downs, and then the Raiders. There's a chance they're 5-4 at the end of the stretch. That stretch. Now, there's no margin for error. And what's the fix to this defense? I think the fix to the defense is Joe Burrow going 10 yards per attempt and 5 touchdowns week after week, which is not something you're going to do every time, but there is some. It's as bad as this defense has played. This offense is really good, and I think there is at least. I can't count them out yet. They're not dead yet.
Yeah, that's fair. They can still get back in this conversation. It's still one of those things. I know Kansas City's Kansas City right now; they're undefeated, but no one has really separated themselves from the pack. It feels like in the AFC just yet. So they could definitely right the ship. It feels like and get back in the mix here. But there is definitely a conversation to be had if this keeps going. And yeah, I think the offense going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. So we go to the other side now. Ravens, it seems like have righted the ship. They're 3-2. This offense, like I said, it's special. They were able to throw the ball all over the yard today. Lamar was amazing. And then you go to the other side. They still run the ball. They had 5.1 yards per carry, 175 yards. This Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson thing, A+ through the first 5 weeks of the season. I think this pass defense is bad. And I've continued to say this. I don't think this is a typical Ravens secondary. It's not performing like a typical Ravens secondary. I don't know how much of it has to do with McDonald leaving, obviously going to the Seahawks as the head coach. But this Ravens secondary, I think, is just bad. So as good as this offense has gotten and how much better it's gotten, how confident are you in them winning a Super Bowl and being a contender if this defense is going to be this bad?
Again, I think there's no perfect teams in the league this year, I guess, except for Minnesota, right? I feel like every team has their holes, and I agree. This past defense has struggled. It did play really well against Kansas City, who's the team it has to play well against. So, I get the criticisms, I get the concerns, but as of right now, they've killed Buffalo, they've beaten Cincinnati, and they've again, I think kind of outplayed Kansas City. Now everyone outplays Kansas City and still loses, but they had that game, nearly won. That was a coin flip game. So yes, I think this team can win the Super Bowl. I still think Kansas City has to be the favorites. They just do. But yes, I think I'm still I still think this is a team that is in the Super Bowl content. They will be in the Super Bowl contenders tier when I do my tier list tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, look, I don't know how it's going to look in January, but the way Lamar Jackson's playing right now, I just said Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in football. It feels like this season. Lamar Jackson ain't far behind, man. He's been fantastic too. So this is electric stuff. I think I covered everything I wanted there. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, again, we're going long, which is good. These are fun games to talk about. The Ravens play the Commanders next week. That's going to be a fun game. Let's go to the Bills Texans. Kyle, you locked up the Buffalo Bills. This was a tough week for you in the picks, buddy. I mean, this was I've almost made up all the ground that you had done such great work to gain through the first 4 weeks. But this was I'm trying to figure out exactly where to go with this. It looked like the Texans were going to run away with this. Nico Collins goes down, and that kind of stalls this Texans offense. But really, the story was this was I mean, what I saw was the Bills defense covering really well. Or excuse me, the Texans defense covering the Bills receivers really well. Not a lot getting open. Keon Coleman made some plays, including a big touchdown on 4th and 5. But for the most part, Josh Allen was just getting frustrated and, quite frankly, playing poorly. The fact that Josh Allen doesn't have an interception this season is like just proof that interceptions are a horrible stat.
Yeah. Yeah. It was or at least horrible indicative of like quarterback performance. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. I think it was definitely a frustrating game. And as much as I did victory laps on the Bills early season, I think these last 2 weeks show that you have to have some concern with the offense now, because this was a struggle. The passing game was just horrible. This team fell behind. And yes, they made up the ground. They cut it to 2017. They tied it up 2020. They had a chance to win it. But yeah, I think this passing game was a struggle, and that's ultimately what's going to hold them back. If they're playing a team like this, if they're playing a team like Kansas City, if we're playing a team like Baltimore, like we saw last week, and all of a sudden those games are a lot harder to throw the ball on, especially when you don't have the elite receiver. And that looked really hard this week, and that was tough. That was really brutal. And like you said, they didn't play well. And then, I mean, we got to talk about the end of this game. Like, yeah.
I'll set it up. So yes. If you missed the game, the Texans were in a situation where they could have tried. It was going to be like a 57-yard field goal on a 3rd and 5. The Bills were out of timeouts. They could have ran the ball and killed the rest of the clock and kicked the field goal as time expired. They decided not to. CJ Stroud gets an intentional grounding call. They're out of field goal range, have to punt it to the Bills. There's 32 seconds left. The Bills have no timeouts, and they're at like their own 4-yard line. They, instead of running the ball out, decide to throw it downfield 3 times in a row, throw 3 incompletions, have to punt it back to the Texans. The Texans are able to make a quick play to gain a few yards, kick a long field goal and win the game. A lot of people were questioning the decision to go for it. 32 seconds left, no timeouts at your 4-yard line, try to score instead of just run the clock out. Kyle, I'm assuming you were not a fan of that call.
No. Yeah. No, I thought it was pretty horrible. I thought it was pretty inexcusable. Obviously, they tried to take some shots downfield. I didn't love it. Look, I mean, they punted the ball away. By the time the punt return ended, there was 16 seconds left. And then they threw a pass over the middle for 5 yards. Like, maybe they still have a shot at that field goal because he returned it to the 46. Obviously, you can't, like, you can't map it all out fairly. But, like, there's a good chance that they don't have an opportunity to move the ball forward if you're covering the sidelines and they have to throw the ball over the middle of the field. And there's an opportunity that they have to kick a longer field goal, at least 5 yards longer. I mean, who knows what would have happened. But even then, like, you're still probably running for positive yards. You probably have a better field position situation there. Or maybe you run for a first down. I don't know. James Cook was the best part of your offense this game. I thought it was inexcusably bad. I understand the aspect of putting the ball in your best player's hand, and Josh Allen is still their best player, like, by far. I get it. But you were like 8 for 27 passing in this game and up until that point. Like, I don't know. I just think there has to be a sense of the situation and the way you had performed so far this entire game. You hadn't completed a pass. Like, you were not throwing the football well at all in this game. And I just think that's an inexcusable thing. And, like, look, I like Sean McDermott as a coach. I don't think he's bad. And, like, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. But does it just seem like he makes the dumbest decisions sometimes? Like, It just seems like he finds a way to lose games more than he wins games as a coach.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He's one of those guys where his worst day is just, like, shockingly bad. Josh Allen, this is the real stat, was 9 for 30 in this game. 21 incompletions, 9 completions. His completion percentage over expected was negative 27.2. Still had positive EPA in this game, largely due to that big Keon Coleman catch. But yeah, and you think about 49 of those 131 yards were on that one catch. So, like, still in the Blaine Gabbert zone, even with a 50-yard touchdown on the Bucs. I mean, it's crazy. I do have to say too, though, this is kind of something I always feel like we're so critical of coaches constantly, but at the same time, on 3rd and 10, a receiver is open and Josh Allen just missed him. Like, you also have to make the play. Like, we can blame the coaches all we want. The players on the field still have to make the plays.
Yeah. I guess the thing is like, even then, like, when you're, I got to pull up the official stats to make sure I'm right. So they were 9 of 27 going into that drive, 33% completion percentage. Even if they convert the third down, like at the end of the day, you still have to complete like 4 or 5 more passes to get into field goal range, and you've completed 9 of 27 for the day. Like,
Yeah.
I just think it's overly optimistic, and I know you trust Josh Allen at the end of the day, but like James Cook was playing good ball, and I still trust him to get out of the back of the end zone there. You at least put yourself in a better punting situation. And best case scenario is you run for a first down at some point and then just go to overtime. So, like, I don't think that's a bad situation to put yourself in when you did all this work to dig yourself out of a 17-3 hole.
Yeah. We should talk about the Texans who won this game. Huge
Yeah.
win for them. Their defense was awesome, and like as much
Yeah.
as we can say the Bills' offense played poorly, like the Bills' offense has trounced teams this season. Really good performance here defensively by Houston. Obviously, the Nico Collins injury does hurt this team, but I thought they were still able to make some plays in the second half. Again, only, they had the 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, only 3 points in each of the next 3 quarters, 3 points each for quarters 2, 3, and 4. That's tough, but like this is still shaping up to be a team that, like, I don't know, where's their ceiling at? Like I just said, every team has a flaw. Well, where's their flaw? Their offensive line, but other than that.
I still think it comes down to they still make it feels like too many boneheaded mistakes throughout games. Like I think the defense played terrifically in this game. I think CJ Stroud's had a terrific season too. I think he's another guy that's in that conversation. He's been amazing this year, but we're still seeing way too many penalties, too many like mishaps that are moving them backwards in situations and killing drives. And, it still feels like a lot of their offense is just CJ Stroud being a hero. And I think that's going to get you far because CJ Stroud's really good. But like, I don't know. In another world, they lose this Bills game where Josh Allen is 9 of 30. And in another world, like, I don't know if like that CJ Stroud being a hero is going to be enough to beat a Baltimore, beat a Kansas City, beat some of these other teams at the top of the AFC.
Yeah. Let's move on. Again, we've got a lot to talk about here. Let's go to Cardinals 49ers. A big surprise as the 49ers were heavy favorites in this one. This is one of the games I gave you, just like, hey, divisional matchups can be weird. Cardinals and 49ers had the same record, both 2-3. Kind of crazy. Kyle, I did my analytical power rankings last week. The Niners were number 1 on that list, and yet they fall to 2-3 here. And it was a weird game where the 49ers had this big lead, and it didn't really feel earned because there was this blocked field goal touchdown, and then there was also like a long Nick Bosa interception. So like that kind of helped the 49ers get this big lead that it didn't feel that earned, but still they were kind of holding on to it. A 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. The Cardinals score a touchdown to make it a 1-score game. But then it's like, okay, 49ers are going to run out the clock. But then Jordan Mason fumbles in the red zone. The Cardinals get this long drive. They're able to kick a field goal. Kyler Murray converts a 4th and 5 where he just throws it up to Marvin Harrison Jr. He had no idea what was happening. It was a blind that just he was pressure in his face. He just threw it up, hope it worked out, and it did. They convert to 4th and 5. They kick the go-ahead field goal, and then Purdy gets pressured as he's trying to throw, ends up throwing an interception, and the Cardinals pull out a victory here. Kyle, I mean, where are we at with both of these teams at this point?
I still think San Francisco's really good. However,
yeah,
they're having an incredible moment of like snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They've done it twice this season, and yeah, I think they're both pretty inexcusable losses. You don't want to do that. And like you said, divisional games can be weird, and maybe that played a part. But yeah, they are finding ways to lose a couple of these games that they should have had. And like, I still think they're really good, but like, man, like a lot of this is going to come down to like seeding at the end of the season, stuff like that. And, I don't think it's going to slip away from them. I still think they're going to right the ship and, kind of respawn, and they're going to, make the playoffs still, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, man, these are a lot of mistakes at the end of these big games.
Yeah, it's the Rams game in this one just felt like they just let the game slip away from them. But again, the Rams game is different because I feel like the 49ers looked like a much better team in that game. Like this game, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
49ers got 2 huge breaks in this game. And you could say it's good plays, sure, with the Nick Bosa interception and the blocked field goal touchdown. But they still are plays that are, I mean, this week was the week of the, game swinging play. Like they got 2 huge game swinging plays and still found a way to lose it. And sure, they fumbled it in the red zone. Okay, that's unfortunate. But and it looked like Jordan Mason just let go of the ball when he was getting tackled. I don't know what happened there, but still, these losses just can't be happening if you're going to be a Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, I mean it's all fair point. Like I do think there are things to criticize. Obviously, they're now 2-3. Like there obviously is things to criticize. And what is it, Bill Parcells? You are what your record says you are, sort of thing. Like I can still say this team's really good and still say that they're making way too many mistakes. Like this team right now is not winning the Super Bowl, but
right.
I still think there is the makings of a Super Bowl contender here. What's going to change this team from being a Super Bowl contender or not is going 1-6 in the red zone. Like that stuff can't happen. The 3 turnovers, like you said, including the bad fumble. Obviously, the last interception was a little unfortunate, but that kind of stuff can't happen. Those are the things that are going to separate this team from a Super Bowl team to what they are now. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a struggle. I think that they got some things to work on, but I still think there is the makings of a good team there that just need to clean some stuff up, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. I feel like I'm maybe giving this team the benefit of the doubt a little bit too much, but I don't know. Like it's a silly loss. It really is. Cardinals did play well though. They did enough, and I think this it's another one of those. I think it's a scrappy team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we're talking about the Cardinals are scrappy. They have the same record as the 49ers now. They find a way to win. I guess where are we at with the Cardinals? Who I felt like after the first couple weeks, I'm like, this is the playoff team, and then they kind of looked underwhelming the past couple weeks, and they got crushed by the Commanders. They lost to the Lions and didn't look great doing it. So after they crushed the Rams, it's like, okay, here we go. Maybe they can only win divisional games. I don't know, yeah. But and I think also their loss to the Bills maybe feels a little less impressive now. But do we feel like this team could still be a play? I still think for me, I still just feel like there's too many holes on this defense. I think the offense is going to win some games. This feels like a team that with 3 weeks left in the season or even 2 weeks left in the season is still has a chance, but ultimately misses it. That's what they feel like to me.
Yeah, I think it really kind of depends on which Kyler Murray shows up. Like we said that last week, and it still kind of feels true because I did think he was pretty good in this game. But yeah, I mean, is it crazy to say so? If you took, I don't know, Tampa, Green Bay, Chicago, New Orleans, Dallas, Philadelphia, Arizona. Those are the teams 6 through 12. And then, I mean, you could probably even throw Seattle in there, and San Francisco's technically 14 right now. If you put San Francisco in the top tier and put Seattle down in this tier, that 6 through 13 is probably teams that could talk themselves into a playoff run.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. I didn't think about it, but how many teams couldn't talk? Even the Giants, I don't know, they played that's good today. Maybe the Giants are the playoff team.
Yeah, maybe they are too. I mean, there is a I think there is a few teams that, I mean, all those teams could definitely talk themselves into it for sure.
Yeah. Sunday Night Football game is getting good. Steelers just took the lead. So it's just an interesting game there. Thanks to everyone who we're competing with Sunday Night Football. And we're, got a tough, we have a tough matchup here.
Yeah. I kind of figured, this wasn't going to be our most viewed show given the scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, probably not live. Maybe we appreciate all you here. Maybe watching us on one screen, the game on the other. But yeah, let's move on. Why don't we? Again, a lot to talk about. Well, I brought them up. Let's talk about the Giants pulling this victory out. There was some controversy on the final blocked kick, which is a legal play. Actually, it's just kind of a weird thing where if you hold the long snapper down and then jump over him, that's a penalty. If one of your buddies does it and then you jump over him, or as long as you don't jump directly over him, it's legal. I didn't realize that, but the Giants did. They did that, and they were able to block a field goal, a game-tying field goal, to recover it for a touchdown. So the Giants pull out this victory, and it's one of those weird things, too, where, you could say that's a bit of a fluky play, but at the same time, Kyle, I got to be honest. I thought the Giants scored a touchdown in the first quarter. It gets, but it's one of those weird things where, so they get this, if you missed the game, the Giants look like they're about to score a touchdown on a 4th and 1. They go for it, and it's a fumble. The ref's saying, well, let's play it out. We don't know, what's going to happen. So let's just rule it a fumble on the field. We can always overturn it. And then there wasn't a good angle to overturn it. So it stands as called, even though it looked to be that it was a touchdown by most people's standards. The Seahawks getting a 100-yard touchdown recovery on it. Kind of a crazy sequence there. But the better team won here today, Kyle.
Yeah, they really did. They played well. I thought the defense played really well. I thought another one where I thought Geno had a pretty good day, but like he got hit a lot, had some bad sacks, that kind of thing. But for the most part, like, it was the Giants defense coming up with those sacks and, forcing the fumble and coming up with the special teams play. And like you said, they probably could have scored early in this game too if it wasn't for that wacky play. So, no, I thought, like, as good as Geno played, I thought Daniel Jones was better in this game. They did it without Malik Neighbors. They did a lot of stuff in this game. I thought both sides of the ball looked pretty good for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that the Giants were able to do so well here today. I mean, I agree. I thought Daniel Jones is a weird quarterback. We're like, Daniel Jones is inconsistent, but like in a different way than other quarterbacks are inconsistent. We're like, I thought, like Jameis Winston, he's the inconsistent where like his best day is he looks like an MVP, and his worst day he looks like he should be out of the league. Daniel Jones still has those like horrible days, but in his best days are just like tier 2 quarterback play, right? Or like really good. He doesn't quite have those like dominant days, but he does have some really good performances under his belt. This was another one.
Yeah, it is bizarre to say, like, it feels like he doesn't show up for a lot of games, but then like people want to make, like, it felt like for a long time the Daniel Jones defenders will like make excuses like offensive line, receivers, all that kind of stuff, justifiable. But then, he'll be like literally dropping Danny dimes to like Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson in this game. And it's like, well, why can't we get that a little more despite the receivers and offensive line? I don't know. But like, yeah, I thought he was really good today. I thought he was impactful, and, his athleticism played a part. I thought he made some excellent throws, and yeah, I thought it was a really good day for him in this Giants offense without their best player.
Yeah. Joe in the chat, who has to be fired up, his Giants with that performance. I felt the Giants dominated the game, and we almost found a way to lose, but we found a way to win. Got to talk about Tyrone Tracy, too. Yes, Tyrone Tracy. It's funny, you said 2 TOO, but he's also Tyrone Tracy Jr., so he could be TWO. 129 yards on just 18 carries, 7.2 yards per carry. So great day there. You brought up no Malik Neighbors in this. What's that?
I said, who needs Saquon Barkley?
that's exactly right. A lot of teams, but still, no Malik Neighbors in this game. Kyle, I'm ready to start the trend of, is Malik Neighbors bad for the Giants? It's the Matthew Stafford without Calvin Johnson take.
Yeah, let's not go there. I'm having too much fun watching him play, so let's just get him back on the field. Yeah, I don't know. It was a bizarre game for sure, and like it's another one where I still don't even think that the Seahawks played that badly offensively, but like I don't know. They definitely were the lesser offense in this game for sure.
Yeah. I agree. I think they'll be okay. But this is also kind of the thing with the Seahawks too, right? Like they kept getting away with winning these close games against bad teams. Barely beating the Broncos, barely beating the Patriots, with all due respect. Like at a certain point, it's going to come back to bite you. That's kind of why you have to put things away.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I mean, and it's another one where, they, like you said, they were kind of outplayed in this game, and they almost found a way to win, but they didn't in this one. And I don't know, like it's just a weird team because like you look at this secondary sometimes, and it's like it looks excellent and it looks like it has the pieces, but then like Darius Slayton goes 8-122 and a touchdown, and it's just like I don't know what to make of this team. They continue to be the weirdest team in NFL history. Like they don't play a normal game. So
no. And they seem so normal on paper. This seems like such a normal team. Like when you just look at the roster, oh yeah, sure, this is like a solid like 10-win team. And then every game is just like I don't know, like a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, change the coaching staff. It's still weird. So no one will figure out the Seahawks, but they'll be in the conversation.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to Packers 49 or excuse me, Packers Rams here. You know, um I think the story just like so Jordan Love, his overall stat line looks pretty solid of like 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception on just 26 attempts. So like that's pretty good. It was a bizarre game by Jordan Love, who has one of the worst interceptions of the year, and this is the year where Will Levis has played as Jordan Love in his own end zone gets like bumped by a Rams player. For whatever reason, the Rams player didn't like tackle him. He just like chest bumped him. Love is sideways, throws one up just blindly. A Rams player catches it and gets a pick six on the play. Love also had a play where he just throws it directly into triple coverage, and a Rams defender who has an easy shot at the interception completely like misses it. And because of that, it gets caught for a touchdown. And everyone was like, what a throw from Jordan Love. Kyle, I'm not going to get gaslit into thinking this was a good throw. That was a bad decision. It should have been intercepted. He got away with one. And then had like a screen pass for like, or it wasn't a screen pass, but like a Tucker Kraft play that went for like 70 yards. That wasn't a huge play. Wasn't a huge Jordan Love play. He did have the occasional nice play as well. But Kyle, I don't know what to make of number 10 for Green Bay.
It's certainly frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like he's got playmakers, man. Like Jaden Reed had a big play early in the first half of this game. Like you said, the Tucker Kraft play that was well schemed, and Tucker Kraft like took it and just took off. Pretty impressive run for him as a tight end, and like he's got playmakers. So it's not like the receivers, running back, tight ends are letting him down. I think he's making a lot of mistakes on his own, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. And he's got one of the best play callers too. So I think he's making too many mistakes to really be convinced in this Packers team. But like, I think it's a solid team. I really do. I think they have a lot of really good stuff, and I think the defense played pretty well in this game. Given the Rams circumstances, I thought the defense still played pretty well in this game. And I just think it feels like a quarterback that's not quite doing enough to really sell you.
It's really bizarre because like he had that really like I will still say like 8 games in a row where he looked great to end last season. So like it is kind of great. Maybe he just starts slow because he started slow last year too. But like he had such great moments last year. It is bizarre to see him just come in and we kind of talked about this game going into it as like a get right game. Like the Rams don't have a great defense. Like this is what you were hoping to see. So it's just bizarre what to make of him right now because. You're right. This Packers team looks great. I mean, they won 2 games with Malik Willis. Like they win another game here without great quarterback play. Like they play Arizona next week. That should be fun. Like there's a lot of talent on this roster, but of course, if they're gonna take that next step, they need Love to start playing like the guy they paid him to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very much the case. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It hasn't been up to par. I guess that's definitely the fair thing to say because. If they're going to win this division, if they're going to make a run in the playoffs, he's got to be better because I do think the rest of this team is pretty good. I really do. So he's got to be better on his own end. We'll see, the Cardinals are another chance for him to kind of get right and play well. He's got a couple other, winnable games, it feels like in the future. So we'll see how he does it. And, maybe it is all just it depends on how Jordan Love plays in January.
Yeah. Still plenty of time left for Love to turn it around this season. Only a few games he's played. Matthew Stafford, again, not to make it all about the quarterbacks. We know the situation. We know he's kind of in a tough spot. Also, Kobe Turner had a couple sacks. Got to give him a shout out. But for Stafford, this was we all talk about Stafford and we all like Stafford. And on his best day, you're like, how is this guy not getting talked about as like one of the elite quarterbacks? Well, it's because he also has games like this. I didn't think it wasn't all on him for sure, but I didn't think this was his strongest game.
No, it wasn't. And I do think the Packers secondary made life difficult. I think that they've done a good job. I think Xavier McKinney has honestly been a huge signing. Obviously, it was expected because he is a big money free agent, but I think he's been fantastic this season. But yeah, I didn't think it was his best game at all, but I don't think it was all on him either. Like you said, a lot of factors play into this Rams situation, and he does have to play better. But I don't know. I'm ready to stick a fork in the Rams, honestly. Maybe if they get these guys back, they can make a run, but I just don't think it's enough right now.
Yeah. I said I was done last week, and then someone in the comments was like, "Oh, you're gonna regret that. Don't regret it yet."
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I will say, like, Kyron Williams has backed up his season. He's been very good. And,
Mhm.
like, I could see a scenario where this offense is awesome again with those two guys back. But, like, I don't know. Like, how much ground are they going to be able to make up, it feels like? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think they're. I think even this Rams team at its best was still a flawed team. I think where they're at now is there's too many injuries. They're not a team that could overcome the injuries that they've had so far.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Let's move on. The Cowboys Steelers game is getting very interesting. Cowboys are down 4 inside the 5 first and goal, but we'll go to one other game and then we'll probably talk about that one. Let's go to Colts Jaguars, which was a fun one here, as it looked like the Jaguars were going to run away with it. Vintage Joe Flacco comes through with another really good performance here for this Colts team. Great fantasy football performance, 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And made some really nice plays down the stretch as well. Alec Pierce, apparently he just needed what is this, his 4th or 5th year? He's finally broken out. He's been great this year.
Yeah.
He's all of a sudden making a lot of plays, especially down the field. Trevor Lawrence had a Jameis Winston-esque game where he's making these great plays and then also I've never seen a quarterback more consistently since Jameis Winston, I guess, have plays that make you say, "Oh my God, how is this guy not an MVP candidate?" And then, "How is this guy in the league?" Like it's incredible. My take on Trevor Lawrence right now is I think he is just a great watch.
Yeah. Oh, come on. This was a really good game. I know the
What do you
the
mean? Oh, come on.
interception
I'm saying that.
This interception was bad, but I thought this was a great game for him. I thought he played really well. I thought, it's the same thing though. Like, it is really a Jameis thing. Like, obviously that interception you don't want, but there are 4 or 5 throws that not a lot of guys in the league could make too. Like, I thought he had a terrific day. I thought this was we said it with the Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. This was just elite quarterbacks at their best. This was quarterbacks at their best. We did not expect them to be in the league category, but this was fantastic from both guys. Throwback game from Joe Flacco, and then like you said, Lawrence showing up in a big way, and yeah, it was a fun game, really unexpected fun game, and it was fun.
Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to say that. I think Lawrence was like, you're right. Lawrence is very good. I was just saying it's like he has this great game and then he has this like insane pick and then he goes back to being good. Right. It's very fun. We have a super chat. What are your thoughts on the Titans' chances versus the Colts next week after Indy lost to the Jags? ? Love the vids. Mayo Man #1. Listen, you can never count the Mayo Man out, Kyle.
From what?
From football. From playing football.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it is I guess you can't count him out then. I won't count him out.
Okay. Well, yeah. Again, Kyle's your enthusiasm was incredible during that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've counted the Mayo Man out. I gotta say. So.
Oh no.
This Joe Flacco thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is 2 teams now where he's just come in and looked like electric. Like, so. Obviously, he's signed with Indianapolis, so they're probably going to go back to Richardson because they've invested a lot in him. But, like, is it crazy to say that a team should offer Joe Flacco a starting job next season? Like, I know he's old, but, like, is it crazy right now the way he's played?
Yes, because he's not going to – I mean – the Cowboys fumbled at the goal line, but then recovered it here. So they're still trying to get into the end zone. Got distracted by that. But he's going to be 40 next year. And like, even at his best, he isn't like an elite level quarterback, right? So like, what are you getting out of it? I get like, I guess maybe like the Steelers would make sense. Kind of like what they did. Like if there's a team like that, but I just don't see, there's no future there.
I don't know. If he's on Minnesota right now, is that team any different? You could argue yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You could argue Minnesota's better with Joe Flacco right now than Sam Darnold. And I don't think that's an insane take. Like, if you just put him with a really good receiver and like a pretty good offensive line too, so like he's not gonna like die because he can't move because he's 40. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's an insane take to say like if you're like a decent quarterback away, like I think Joe Flacco can be a decent quarterback. Like he's the best quarterback on the Colts right now by far. Like it's not close.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think it's a where are we going from? What are you going? Where are you going from here? Like, what's the future is kind of the question. But yeah, it's crazy that last year he didn't even have a job. Period. He didn't have a backup job.
He'd be the best quarterback on Cleveland right now.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. I think that's legitimately crazy that Cleveland didn't sign him to be a backup. We'll get to Cleveland. But no, Kyle, I got to give a shout out to someone who this podcast is a big fan of, Trayvon Walker. 3 sacks on the day. I can't figure this guy out either because like all of his sacks in his career have just been bull rushes, and they've looked like the most impressive plays you've ever seen in your life. The sack at the end was kind of a fluky play, but like his sacks look like, again, it's the thing of like, how is this guy not an absolute superstar? Those are the only pressures he ever gets. He's completely a binary player. He either makes the greatest play you've ever seen or just taken out of play every single time. There's clearly something to, like, he's the kind of guy where if you watch the highlights, you think he's like a much better player than he is because of how impactful he is on the highlights. But like at a certain point, you have to say, okay, if he has an incredibly high sack to pressure ratio and he's been doing it for his whole career, and it's kind of, it's similar to like baseball, how we originally thought batting average on balls in play was purely luck. And it's like, well, no, some of it is skill and some of it is luck. That's kind of how I view Trayvon Walker.
I think that's a fair take. I don't think he's been that bad this season. Like look.
I'm not saying he's been bad. I'm just saying he's been like he has 5 sacks in 5 games. You look at that and you're like, oh my God, incredible. You watch the other plays and it's like he's not doing a ton else. It's like, but that's just how I view it.
Yeah, I think he's been okay. The issue is that like he obviously anybody watching the game would still say I want Aiden Hutchinson, but I do think athletically he's impressive, and maybe that's just speaking to his pass rush. When like you said, the amount of pressures compared to the sacks is like, well, he's just so physically dominant that when he wins his battle, he's getting to the quarterback because he's so physically impressive. I don't know. Maybe it's something like that.
I mean, I think really what it comes down to is like there are some tackles who have the strength to handle him, and there are some tackles who don't. And like if you don't have the strength to handle him, you're going to have a tough day. I thought the Colts would have been able to handle him. That's something we talked about as an advantage for the Colts here. Wasn't able to happen in this one. So yeah. How about Tank Bigsby? 13 carries, over 100 yards, and a pair of touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, back into the Cowboys taking the lead.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay. Yeah. Tank Bigsby is really good. Yeah. Yeah, he was really good too. I mean,
we can go to Cowboys if you want. Let's just go. Yeah. I think we covered that game, Kyle. The Cowboys. Well, I mean, I guess there's 20 seconds left. We can't go there now, right?
I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. Well, maybe we'll see. Let's go. But let's finish this. I interrupted you. So yeah, Tank Bigsby was really good. This was a nice win for the Jaguars, to be fair, though. Like for a team that, like, speaking of the Bengals, had found every which way to lose their games. They have 4 games. 3 of their 4 losses are 4 points or less, 5 points or less. Excuse me. Like it's not inconceivable. This team's not like progressively terrible, but like they just found a bunch of ways to lose a bunch of games and got embarrassed in Buffalo on national TV. Like, I don't think this team's a train wreck. And that's kind of the reason why it was like, okay, if Bill Belichick takes over, I could see it, because like, I don't think this team's a train wreck. And maybe this is sparks a run, Bears, Patriots, the next couple of weeks are winnable games.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, again, I think they've a bit of too big of a hole that they've dug at this point. But I agree that they played well. And they played better than 1-4. That's certainly true.
Yeah. They're just below average.
Yeah. Kyle, so I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this now. So we have a handful of games left. Do we want to go? Cowboys Steelers still has 20 seconds. So I guess we should go to another game, right? Maybe should I pick like a game that we can kind of plow through so that way we can stop when should we go like Dolphins Patriots now?
Yeah, you want to talk about my stupid team?
Yes, let's talk about your stupid team, and then we'll probably the Steelers cannot stop jumping off sides on this extra point. Anyway, Kyle, your stupid team. They almost won against the Dolphins. That's cool. You're getting there.
This was one of the worst football games I've ever watched.
I'm
There was
not exaggerating.
18,
I watched like 3 plays of this game.
yeah. There was 18 accepted penalties in this game, and it felt like there was like 30 penalties called. It was brutal to watch. So let me just start with this. Miami found every which way to try and lose this game. They had turnovers in, the Patriots side of the field. They had like backbreaking drive-ending penalties. They had, in Patriots territory, they had a snap just fly over Tyler Huntley's head for like a 30-yard loss. They had a dropped field goal attempt, dropped by the snapper. They had a field goal attempt off the post on like a 30-yard chip shot when he hit multiple like 50-yarders. They did everything they could to lose this game. And then at the end of the game, they went down and scored. Patriots decided just to stop or not try and stop the run anymore. I don't know. It was a weird situation. HN was out. Whatever. These two teams suck. Like, none of that matters. I do have one thing to rant about. And
Okay.
I'm going to preface this with, I'm a sore loser right now. I don't care. I don't care about either of these teams right now because both of them stink. Yes, we got the draft positioning. And you know what? I'm a Patriots fan who had a lot of benefits. I know the Steelers fans are going to say things. I know I had a lot of benefits with the catch rules and the inconsistencies of the catch rules over the last, 20 years. I understand all of this. Catch rules in football are stupid. And I'm ranting about it now because my team lost because of it. But like, I just don't understand the what they're trying to accomplish with some of these catch rules. So to preface this, the Miami Dolphins take the lead 15-10. Patriots actually put a drive together somehow and go down the field. And Jacoby Brissett throws it at the back of the end zone. Jalen Polk catches it, 1 foot down. The second foot, his right foot, his toes hit the ground, and then his heel hit the ground. So it's considered incomplete because the toe does not count if it's the full foot. But if the toes hit and drag, then all of a sudden that counts. And then I think that's like a different rule in the end zone compared to the sidelines, something like that. I think it's like, why are there different rules and different arbitrations for the rule call enforcing for like different parts of the field? I don't know. It's just it's a frustrating thing to see. I don't know. I've had it with the catch rules. No one knows what a catch is. It's almost as bad as handball and soccer, which don't even get me started on that too. All of it's frustrating, but yeah, I don't know. Patriots suck.
I like someone said, is Kyle coping? Someone else said, just let him vent. So yeah, here. Okay, Justin Fields trying to throw this game away, almost throws a pick. Here. Kyle, how did the Dolphins got a win? Did Tyler Huntley look okay in this one?
Yeah, he was actually okay. But
okay.
I mean, I think the Patriots defense is bad. Like, I've just accepted the fact that this defense in the secondary especially is bad. So I don't really know what to make of Tyler Huntley going forward because like they're just bad. Like I know the at least you could say with Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith, like those are really good quarterbacks. But like, yeah, I just don't think it's a good defense. And so we'll see. Christian Gonzalez dropped an interception in the end zone in this game too, so that would have made it look a lot worse. But he did have a nice interception earlier in the game, so that was nice. But yeah, it's just a bad defense. I think Tyler Huntley did okay. The big thing was that the Patriots just cannot stop the run in the second half at all.
All right, Kyle. Well, let's move on to Cowboys Steelers. Cowboys officially have beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers. They score a late 4th and goal touchdown. Kyle, you missed another miss on your picks this week. Your tough week continues. A wild game. I mean, Prescott threw multiple interceptions. There was one where him and CeeDee Lamb just weren't on the same page here. There was a delay, which kind of threw everything out of whack on this one. I think my biggest takeaway I have is for Pittsburgh, they brought up that I guess Russell Wilson said he's going to be ready next week to go. That I kind of just assumed like he had already been ready and they were just letting Fields go. Like, the reality is the Steelers team, with all their things they have, all the things they do well, they cannot push the ball down the field particularly well. And even against a bad secondary, they weren't able to take advantage. And that's kind of ultimately, I think, what cost them the game.
Yeah. This was a very Steelers game. It was set up for them to win, and they just couldn't get enough going on offense. I mean, we thought Russell Wilson was ready because the freaking dork is wearing his shoulder pads on the sideline. I can't stand that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but this is the biggest goober in the NFL history. Like, I side with the Legion of Boom. I side with Marshawn Lynch. I don't care. Like, this guy is just so weird. Why is he wearing his shoulder pads if he's not available to play? Like,
He was wearing them like week one. It was like the first week he was in uniform.
This is like a guy who works remote wearing like a full suit to sit in his living room. Like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. How embarrassing for you. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. This felt like a very Steelers game that they were going to win because the Steelers just have a way of winning these games. Like, it was 445 yards to 222 yards. It was 5.9 yards per play to 3.9 yards per play. But the Cowboys were 1-4 in the red zone, 0-3 until that last drive that was a touchdown. And honestly, like, their first 6 possessions, they got it. 6 of their first 7 possessions, they got into Steelers territory and had 6 points, excuse me. And then they got the touchdown on that 22-yard pass, and then they went down the field and scored at the end of the game, obviously while we were talking on here. And, yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously Dallas doesn't want to fix those mistakes or wants to fix those mistakes, but, like, they were the way better team in this game. But I think we were just kind of, like, waiting for the Pittsburgh thing to happen because this is generally how Pittsburgh wins games, and it didn't happen this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the issue of trying to hope that you can win these close games week after week after week. It's not always going to happen. The Cowboys, as bad as this start to the season has been, have kind of survived here. Now, they play the Lions, the 49ers, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Texans, the Commanders, the next stretch. I mean, that's a tough next 6 games, but they've survived here. And again, if they can survive that stretch, there is maybe some hope here for this Dallas team that I think is still a flawed team, but like they basically would have been done had they lost this one. So winning this one, beating the Giants, they've found some footing here. And their defense, again, we can say the Giants and the Steelers offenses aren't great, but has started to play better these past couple weeks.
Yeah, they have looked better. So I think I said it on Wednesday. I do feel the same way. Like, I think there's a scenario where Dallas could talk itself into saving its season with Bland coming back and playing well and with adding another receiver. Because I know he had 2 interceptions in this game. I do think Dak's played really well this season. I think he's been good. And from the bit we saw until we had to jump on our show, I thought Dak played really well in this game too. Up until that, I don't know. I thought he played well in this game too. So I just think like I think you could talk yourself into it if you're a Dallas fan, if you're a Dallas front office person, but like I don't believe this team can right the ship enough to like really talk myself into anything more than a wild card team if they don't get another receiver. So I know Tolbert played pretty well in this game. He had a big play. Ferguson had a big play. They had somebody else have a big play on like the second play of the game where the Steelers linebacker just didn't go out into coverage for some reason. But yeah, they had a few guys come up in this game, but like I still feel like it needs another guy.
Yeah. Here's the good news for the Steelers. There's only 2 teams that aren't leading the division, right? So technically they're no longer leading the division. The Ravens have taken the lead, but the only other team that isn't leading the division that has a winning record in the AFC is the Broncos at 3-2. So I'll just talk about the AFC being so tough. I mean, like, the Jets are 2-3. The Dolphins and Patriots, I don't think are going to do much. The Chargers and Raiders, maybe the Chargers can turn things around. The Browns haven't looked great. The Bengals are still in there at 1-4. They still have a chance, but like, the Steelers are still probably fine for a playoff spot here, even with a couple losses. I still just think the Steelers are the Steelers. I don't know. Maybe Wilson makes sense. Maybe it makes sense to let's ride.
Maybe. I don't know. I think Fields he wasn't good enough to win this game, but he was fine. Like, I don't think he was terrible. I continue to say, like, my issue with Fields is that all of this is happening, like, at the end of the games. Like, I think he needs to be a little more consistent, like, throughout the game. But at the same time, like, yeah, I don't know. I still think he presents more upside. Unless you think Russell Wilson can come in and, like, look like Russell Wilson in some capacity. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not worried about the Steelers just because I know what they are. Like, I think that I'm not worried about them potentially making the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they made the playoffs, and I wouldn't be shocked that they didn't. But when it comes to the Steelers, like, I guess the conversation is like, how long do you want to be like the fun 9-win team? Like, I think they can keep doing that for a long time, but like this team still feels like a very far, like if the eventual goal is to win the Super Bowl, I don't see a scenario where the Steelers win the Super Bowl at all. And that's probably what the conversation is. Sooner or later has to become.
Yeah, I hear you. I just think that like at a certain point we can keep saying, "Well, Fields doesn't lose you the game." Well, like if you keep having to win games 17-13, eventually you lose games.
Yeah, but like Russell Wilson's not winning you these games. It feels like
No,
maybe
I don't disagree. I just think the philosophy in general is flawed.
Yeah, no, it is. But that's been their philosophy for like the last 3 or 4 years, honestly.
Yeah,
Since
it's tough.
Roethlisberger left. Yeah, I mean it has been.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Let's move on. 4 games left to talk about. I probably should have gone to this game earlier, not because it was a good game, but just because there's a lot to talk about. Browns at balls. Let's talk some balls. First off, I mean, the team that's on top of the world right now, the Washington Commanders, who currently are alone in second in the NFC with a 4-1 record. Only 2 teams in the NFC with 4 wins, them and the Vikings. The Commanders, who just this offense keeps rolling. Another dominant game by Jaden Daniels, who didn't. He had a couple mistakes in this one, a red zone interception. He also tried to throw another one, got dropped, but still. I mean, some of these just unbelievable throws. I mean, he has these Patrick Mahomes like throws is the best way I can describe it. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing out there. Let's start with the positives. Kyle, Jaden Daniels through 5 weeks, I'm just going to say it, is the MVP through 5 weeks.
You put him number 1, huh?
I think so, because Joe Burrow's had the bad week 1.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he's been very good. He's been fantastic. I mean, this is I feel like we keep saying this every year. Like CJ Stroud rewrote everything for rookie quarterbacks, and I think Jaden Daniels is playing better than CJ Stroud did last year. Honestly, like you said, there were a couple mistakes in this game, but the response to adversity, it felt like, was just as impressive because he did make mistakes in this game. He did miss some throws, but then they came back and scored 24 points in the half, and then this game was over by the second half. And yeah, I just think it's been really impressive, and I applaud the performance. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think he's been one of the best quarterbacks in football, no doubt.
Yeah. Overlap 618 with a super chat. I've got more movie recommendations, Jackson. Now, where do I send them to? This is Overlap, the real one. Also, can anyone beat the Chiefs? I also love the misspellings that Overlap throws in there, which is always it adds to my idea that Overlap is just on like a coked out bender, just typing things as quick as they can.
Yeah, I do really enjoy that he has to clarify that it's Overlap, the real one, when I don't think we've had any Overlap impersonators probably ever.
No,
but we
never.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Send your movie recommendation to the movie channel, Overlap. Yes. Thank you for the super chat, Overlap. We always appreciate it. Jaden Daniels is awesome. This defense has played a lot better these past couple of weeks. Kyle, this might have been Deshaun Watson's worst performance, which is saying something because he's had some bad performances.
Yeah. I don't get it. I continue to not get it. I don't know, man. Like, what else do we need to say? Like, we were saying in week 2 he should have been benched. Like how?
I think even week 1.
Yeah. How much longer I don't know. I don't know what you're getting out of this. I don't know what they're trying to prove. And like, I don't know. Like, my thing is like, so we've obviously made jokes that like we don't think Kevin Stefanski was like the 2-time best coach in the NFL sort of thing, right? Obviously, like him winning 2 Coach of the Years is not indicative of like where his stature is as a coach in the NFL. However, I do tend to just trust his judgment. I think he's a good coach still. He has to be seeing Jameis Winston every day in practice and be like, this isn't better. Trust me. Like, I don't know. That has to be the problem, right? Like, there's just no way like you can watch this and say like I could find a better option somewhere else.
Yeah, we have my brother in the chat who said Jamie's time. Yeah, I agree. I think it is Jamie's time. I think it's Kyle, there's no way this isn't for management, right? Like, there's no way. Like, this decision has to be out because you can't sit here and say that the better decision is to keep Watson out there. Like, I guess the best argument you can make is you are still stuck with Watson for another year. Like, the contract is, you can't cut him this year. Like, it's not possible with the way the cap is constructed. Like, it's not even, I'm not saying it'll be difficult. I'm saying it's legitimately not possible for them to cut him this year. You're stuck with him for at least another year. I think the argument is like, can we fix him? Is this year just a lost year? Similar to how like the Panthers took last year with Bryce Young of like, it's a lost year. Let's just try and see if we can build him. Is there logic there?
I don't know. Like, and sooner or later, like a player has to stop being a salary cap question and just a performance question, right? Like, he just has to be a football player. Like, yes, there is a lot of sunken costs to Deshaun. Deshaun Watson is already a sunken cost. Like, it doesn't matter when you can cut him. You're not cutting him in the offseason because he's not a good football player, or you're not cutting him in the offseason because he's expensive, regardless if he's bad or good. Like, he's already a lost cause. That's my opinion at this point. Like, you're not fixing it. You're not, saving your money or anything like that. At this point, you might as well just set the check on fire. Like, that's just kind of the situation you're in.
Yeah, I agree.
Go
ahead.
If you want to win football games, like, you might as well just put the quarterback you think can win you the games. Like, if that is Deshaun Watson still, then that's fine. But like, I just don't think, like, if it's a young quarterback, if it's a rookie, you've invested a lot of resources in that. I get that 100%. I understand it. But like, I don't know. Sooner or later, you have to say who puts you in the best position to win football games or at least look competitive. And I just can't imagine this being the right answer.
Yeah. No, I agree. Stearns with a super chat said, "Good morning, go Redskins." Stearns, you might want to Google Washington new football team name. You're gonna be shocked.
Yeah, it is. It's been changed for a few years now.
Yeah, a bit late on that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's sooner or later you have to stop thinking about the dollar amount and like just think about like this guy's not doing anything for you. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Wild situation there. 3 games left to talk about. Let's go to, before we get to, I always like to save the Thursday night game for a bit, especially when it's my team losing. We'll go to Panthers Bears here, just because, like, I mean, Kyle, I've got to give you the floor here. Your guy, Caleb Williams, over 10 yards per attempt, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions on just 29 attempts. I mean, that's the story right here.
Yeah, he was really good in this game. Granted, like, I think a lot of the like counting numbers were a couple long throws, like. But I think like he also wasn't hitting those big plays too earlier in the season or at all. Like, he wasn't even close. So like hitting those, I think, is just a huge step forward. So yeah, it was really good stuff. I thought it was impressive. Granted, I want to see it more than just against the Panthers because we've talked a lot about this Panthers team and their struggles. But this was a huge step forward, and I thought he looked really good. 10 out of 10, huge step forward. And I don't know, like, This was kind of my comment last week. Like, this Bears defense had performed very well the first 5 weeks of the season, and they performed well again in this one too. To be fair, they're not the story of this game, but they have played well every week this season. And it's like, if they could figure out this Caleb thing, if Caleb clicks and this offense starts to click a little bit, this Bears seems infinitely more interesting as far as a playoff team, right?
Yeah, I think that I kind of was going to ask you is, I mean, they're 3-2 right now. Could there be how do we feel about them as a potential playoff team? The offense starting to look better. The guys are starting to get open again. They crushed the Panthers. Basically, everyone but the Raiders has done that. But like, I do wonder if this is a team that could potentially go on a run. The defense continues to play well. This offense starting to pick it up. And for Caleb Williams, sure, we can say it's just the Panthers, but like, I was comparing him to Zach Wilson after the first couple weeks. Zach Wilson never had a game like this.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, it absolutely is a question. like I said, I need to see a little bit more of it, obviously, but I would say the last 3 weeks, it's been a slow and steady progress, but I think the last 3 weeks he's been incrementally better each week. So I think that's a huge sign going forward. And I think this was the best game of his season by far, obviously. And all of a sudden, that game, I think it's 3 weeks from now because I think there's a bye week for Chicago mixed in. But they're home to Jacksonville. There's a chance they're 4-2 after that game. And then they're at Washington October 27th. And that was already a fascinating game because it was 1-2. But, like, imagine if Caleb plays well going into the bye week, and then we're going into that game where it's a 4-2 Chicago team and a 1-loss Commanders team with both of those quarterbacks playing just lights out football.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see. I mean, again, I do think it's fair to say that Daniels has been a little better than Williams so far to start this year, but
No doubt.
but we have seen Williams just again do these sort of slowly getting better, right? It hasn't just been. It's not just he all of a sudden played great against the Panthers. Like he has been slowly improving, and a big part of it too is the situation around has been improving. And like the DJ Moore thing, DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. I thought DJ Moore was going to like never demand a trade after week 3. Now all of a sudden, like they're connecting on everything.
Yeah, that looked much better. It's funny because like Cole Kmet might have been their most steady player through the first 4 weeks of the season, which is not what you wanted when you get Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and you had DJ Moore. But like he's been kind of the guy, and I think all of a sudden you can kind of talk yourself into this offense kind of clicking a little bit more. So, like I said, I want to see it more, but as a Caleb, putting all my stock in this basket, I think I was very impressed with this game for sure.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about the Panthers?
No, not really. I mean, no, not really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on then.
Is good. Chuba Hubbard, good player.
Sure. Panthers, hey, might be good next year. Bucs Falcons, disappointing game. For me, as a Tampa Bay fan, seemed like a very fun game for everyone else. As both offenses were great in this one. It ends up being the Falcons tied a game on a last-second field goal to then win it in overtime to win the coin toss. Baker Mayfield, who's having a great game, does not get a touch the ball in overtime. But Tampa Bay also had their chances to win this one earlier. Bucky Irving with a fumble, trying to run out the clock in the red zone. That can't happen. It was my takeaway was I feel like the Bucs are fine. As a Tampa Bay fan, I view things through that lens. The offense played great. The defense is so banged up. I'm not devastated by this. Someone when I made my Buccaneers fan reaction video, someone brought up that like Todd Bowles is a good coach, but his worst games just look like unwatchable. And like that's kind of how I viewed this one. It's like you look at his like 2 or 3 worst games of the year, and they just look terrible. I don't know why we just did that zone blitzing stuff all game. We never made adjustments. Didn't love that. But Cousins was on fire. Had over 500 yards in this game. You got to give him credit. Darnell Mooney's amazing. Drake London, 150 yards. Even Kyle Pitts made some plays. The Falcons get a big win here.
Yeah. I agree with what you said on Todd Bowles, but like the offense was progressive in this game. Like they went at it, and like Baker was really good. I mean, a lot of the game script stuff, and you look at the team stats, all that stuff. Like these two teams are pretty even, and that played out on the field too. Like it was 36-30 in overtime. So this game was pretty even on the both sides. Like the biggest difference, obviously, was the 81 plays to 51 plays in the time of possession metrics, and that's probably part of like. It just felt like at times, the Falcons had 8 conversions on 3rd and 4th down out of 17. And it just felt like that was the difference in this game, was just like Tampa Bay just could not get off the field. And the Falcons offense did play, both of these teams played really well. I think both of these offenses played really well too. So I'm not really going to overreact to this game for the Buccaneers. I think the story of this game was Atlanta's offense looking like kind of what we didn't expect like this all the time, obviously, because this was a really good performance. But like this offense had felt sleepy for a lot of the talent they had on the field, and I thought it looked really, really good in this game. So I think that was the most impressive part of it. And probably my biggest takeaway is like I still think these two teams are pretty even, but this is the Atlanta offense we thought could win this division pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. I think Atlanta has found what they were supposed to be. I agree that's the story. I do think it's fair to say, like, listen, every team has injuries. Injuries aren't exactly an excuse. This team was really injured to the point where they're on like their fourth string linebacker. I mean, this is there's and they have, and not to mention like Todd Bowles was asked like, hey, why didn't you go with I forget what coverage it was. It wasn't even like a crazy coverage. I think it was like, why didn't you go with like a man coverage in this situation? He's like, well, we didn't have enough safeties to do it. Like they were legitimately without certain players. So it's not to take away from what the Falcons did, because I think the Falcons did legitimately also make good plays, but like it's part of why I'm less concerned here as a Tampa Bay fan. I guess the one thing you'd have to say though is if you're a Falcons fan, is it a little concerning that your defense kind of got lit up like this? Because I mean, again, Falcons no team is fully healthy, but the Falcons are much closer to 100% right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, like. Obviously, they're going to have to play better in other games, and maybe if these two teams, the next time these two teams play, they're going to have to play better. But like this Tampa offense kind of rocks. Like, I think it's fair to say this team is good. Like, I don't know, like they need to play better, obviously, if they want to like reach their aspirations. But this Tampa Bay offense is nothing to slouch at either. I mean, we just have to accept that Baker Mayfield's great. Like, not great. I mean,
great. MVP.
I mean, this
we're
season
seeing the first through 5 weeks MVP consideration.
He's in the conversation. He's on the short list. There's a lot of people on this short list, apparently. But like, no, he's been great this season, and he was great last season. Like, I think it's just something that we kind of have to accept. Is like Baker Mayfield's the guy, and this receiving core is awesome, and this is a really good situation. It feels like for all these guys.
Yeah, very fun. Kyle, I imagine you had a blast watching this one.
It was a much more enjoyable game. See, here's the problem. My team's bad, and they're also not enjoyable to watch. Like, I would kill just like I would be okay with losing a bunch of these games if I could just watch Malik Neighbors. I can't even watch that. Like, I watch Ramondre Stevenson.
Hey, Christian Gonzalez.
He made a couple good plays in this game.
No, I know it's tough for Patriots fans. Haven't had a lot to cheer about. It's been what I don't know, like 6 years since you won a Super Bowl.
Will anybody think about the Boston sports fan?
Yes, agreed. It's been almost a year since you won your last championship. But you're not even a Celtics fan, so you don't even get that.
No, but we did sign Jeremy Swayman today for the Bruins, so just in time for hockey season.
Yes, one game left to talk about. Bit of a longer show than, of course, it goes. Of course, this is going to happen with us, Kyle. Is that we have less games to talk about and still end up going long. But Raiders Broncos, the final game to bring up here. This was a mess, to be honest, by the Las Vegas Raiders. They go up 10-0. Early. Gardner Minshew throws an 100-yard pick six. I think Scott Hansen said this is the first time ever there have been multiple 100+ yard defensive plays in the same week, and they happened like within minutes of each other with this one and with the Giants Seahawks one. Since that, I mean, this was just all Denver. This Denver defense continues to be awesome. I mean, it's legitimately good. And Bo Nix, another like solid performance here. He couldn't stop yelling at Sean Payton. Him and Sean Payton were just yelling at each other all game, but they were able to, win this one in a kind of a dominating fashion. Gardner Minshew got benched, and Aiden O'Connell looked worse. So what do you do now, Kyle? What was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you don't typically see the 19-27, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns with a 26.8 QBR. That's a bit of a rare stat line. But no, I thought Bo Nix was fine. Like, I didn't, I thought he was pretty good. But like, yeah, I don't know. This Raiders team feels like such a mess, man. Like, I don't know why I talked myself into this game, like them winning this game, but like Brock Bowers is awesome. He had 2 catches and 60 yards and a touchdown, I think, on the first drive. And outside of that, like, I didn't even know Amir Abdullah was still in the league. Like, there's just so many things about this team that I'm just like not overly thrilled about. And obviously a big part of this season was hoping to have Devontae Adams, but like, I don't know, even beyond that, like, it just feels like it's Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Brock Bowers, Devontae Adams, or everything's a bust. Like, this is the kind of stuff we say about like the Cowboys, but like the problem is that the rest of this team is just not very good around those 4 guys.
Yeah. Also, I gotta say, chat. Let's try to take it easy here. With the I didn't miss how this whole thing started, but chat's getting a little bit feisty here. Let's try to relax here. We're all here to talk Raiders Broncos now, which I know is not a great thing to talk about, but we're doing our best here. Yeah, I agree. I think that this Raiders team has. I don't know. I can't figure this. I mean, clearly they wanted a quarterback in the draft. It didn't work out, and now they're just kind of stuck in this like no man's land for a year.
Yeah, but they've made it as dramatic as possible. That's for sure. So I'm really glad they're here. Joe Flacco would be a lot better on this team.
Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah. Well, it's also the weird thing too, where it's like Minshew and O'Connell aren't bad enough. Like this is the team that should have said, you know what, we believe in Zach Wilson. Let's trade for Zach Wilson, have him start every game, and then get the number 1 overall pick next year.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a weird situation, but it was another one where it's not a fun watch. But all right, let's do this game instead because I'm done talking about the Raiders. They're not a fun team to watch. I'm sorry. I love Max Crosby. You're not a fun team to watch beyond that. More likely to make the playoffs, Broncos or Bears? Which rookie quarterback?
Interesting. I think, well, I mean, we just went through the AFC roster. I kind of think the Broncos just have an easier shot because they're in the AFC is so top loaded.
Yeah. I mean, they're in the playoffs right now because behind them is Los Angeles 2-2. Justin Herbert's probably going to play hurt for the rest of the season. New York obviously is a team at 2-3. You expect to get better, but then it's like Las Vegas, who I just said is not a very good team. Miami, 2-3. I mean, unless Tua comes back perfectly fine, I guess that's maybe a conversation. And then Indianapolis, 2-3, who may not play their best quarterback the entire year. So outside of that, like, yeah, I mean, there's a path for them. And then even then, like, the Steelers at 3-2 aren't very convincing either. So there's definitely a path for them. And this defense is going to take them a long way because this secondary is nasty. So I definitely think that's a conversation to be had. The Bears are pretty good too. So I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think, Bo Nix, like, I don't know what the reason why I wasn't crazy about the draft pick was because I just don't know what the ceiling of Bo Nix is. I was higher on the floor of Bo Nix than you were. I think we were both kind of very bearish on the ceiling of him. But, like, if he can just be a solid quarterback, like, you play good defense, like, they have winnable games still on the schedule. They do play the Chargers a couple times. They play the Raiders again. They play the Panthers. Like, if they can get to that, like, 9 wins, that might be enough.
Yeah. 9 wins isn't out of the realm of possibilities, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, let them know you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. That is at On the Sideline JK on Twitter.
Yes, of course. If you're like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline podcast. It should be available there. We just search On the Sideline. I always say search On the Sideline podcast, but you don't have to throw podcast in there.
Yeah. It might help, but yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Search On the Sideline. It should be available there. Kyle, that is how did we go so long? How was this like our second longest show of the year?
Yeah. We had a lot to talk about in those early games, that's for sure. Those first games we talked about. Yeah.
Oh, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the show. I'll mention it now. We're going to move up next week's show because there is a hurricane coming on Wednesday. We figured let's just move it up a day just to make sure we don't lose power or anything during the show. So Tuesday, it'll be our normal time, 6 Eastern. We will preview all of the Week 6 games. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
No, let's get out of here. Ready for bed.
Okay. Yes, Red says hurricane. Yes, a lot of we gotta have our annual. It seems like our monthly hurricane here in Florida. Kyle, you need to go back to Texas.
Yeah, maybe it's maybe it's just bad luck for me because this is gonna be my second in like 3 weeks. So love it.
Yes. Again, thank you to everybody for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.